I want you to picture something. This was a situation I found myself in several years ago. You're in your 50s, sitting at your kitchen table at midnight, staring at a bank statement that makes your stomach drop. You have saved barely anything for retirement, a credit card balance you stopped looking at months ago, and a mortgage that still has 14 years left on it.
I'm a Gen Xer, like many of you, and sometimes I think we spent so much time outside and unsupervised, it's no wonder many of us didn't get a good financial education growing up. But you know what else? It didn't matter what problems we faced growing up, we just figured them out. We survived. This one isn't a whole lot different, but for many of us, we just took too long to deal with it. Regardless, every financial guru on the internet seems to be talking to 25-year-olds about the power of compounding over 30 or 40 years. Nobody's really talking to us. Well, today that changes because I'm going to tell you some brutal truths that nobody else will say out loud. And then I'm going to show you exactly what is possible starting from zero in your 50s. I'm halfway down this journey myself, and I figured out most of what was keeping me stuck all these years. I'm hoping I can help do the same for you. But first, let me destroy a myth that has been quietly keeping millions of people broke. The myth is that starting late means it's already too late. That story is absolutely destroying your future, and the worst part is that you might be telling it to yourself every single day without even realizing it. I know I was. The real enemy isn't your age. The real enemy is a collection of financial habits that have been bleeding your potential dry for decades. And those habits do not disappear just because you finally decide to care about retirement. So before we talk about what is possible, we need to talk about what's actually going wrong. Because if you skip this critical part, nothing else will stick. I was stuck in this hamster wheel of bad habits for 30 years. I had to take a hard look in the mirror to finally break out of it. The first brutal truth is that most people in their 50s are not broke because they earn too little. They are broke because they normalize spending everything they earned. Think about how many raises you have received over your career. Think about every bonus, every tax refund, every windfall. Where did it go? The income increased, but somehow the bank account never followed. Lifestyle inflation is arguably the most dangerous financial disease in America. You do not feel reckless when you upgrade your car or move into a slightly bigger house or start eating at nicer restaurants. Each decision seems reasonable on its own, but the cumulative effect is that you traded your retirement for comfort you barely remember. I remember my very first apartment. It was decent, but quite small. I lived there for a few years, but once I got a job that paid me twice what I was making before, I immediately upgraded my apartment. It felt great, but did I really need to do that? No. If I had kept that apartment and invested the extra money for a few more years, I would have been able to take advantage of assets like dividend income. Once the profits from those investments generated enough income to pay the difference between apartments, or, at least pay some of the bills, that is when I should have upgraded. The second brutal truth is that debt has been acting like a financial parasite for years. Credit card interest rates are routinely sitting between 20 and 29% right now. Think about what that means for a second. Every dollar you carry on a credit card balance is effectively a guaranteed negative return of at least 20% per year. No investment can consistently beat that. So if you are carrying consumer debt and simultaneously trying to invest for retirement, you're pouring water into a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. The hole wins every time. And yet millions of people in their 50s are doing exactly this without recognizing the internal contradiction. I use credit cards often when I, quote, needed something, unquote, and just couldn't wait. I always told myself, sure, I'll just pay it off later. What I almost never remembered was that paying it off later isn't just the price I paid that day, but all of the interest included too until it was paid off. It was too easy to ignore that part of it. I just paid the monthly payments and moved on. And that brings us to the next truth. The third brutal truth is the psychology of financial avoidance. The longer you avoid looking at your financial situation honestly, the more powerful the avoidance becomes. It's not laziness, it's a genuine psychological defense mechanism. Your brain is protecting you from facing a scary reality, but that protection is costing you years of potential growth. Every month you delay is not just a month of lost savings, it's a month of lost compound growth on everything you would have saved. And here's where things get mathematically brutal. Compound interest does not care about your feelings or your excuses. It works quietly and relentlessly in the background, and it works for you or against you, depending entirely on your choices. The same mathematical force that makes debt devastating also makes consistent investing wildly powerful, even at 52 or 55 or 58. The last 5 years before a traditional retirement age can have an enormous impact on your financial situation if you approach them with genuine intensity rather than resignation. So let's talk about what's actually possible and what it actually requires, because this is where most financial content lies to you either through false optimism or through ignoring the behavioral changes required. If you're starting with close to nothing in your 50s, the first move is not to open an investment account. The first move is to create a brutally honest financial inventory. Write down every debt, every monthly expense, every subscription, every habit that costs money. Do not round numbers. Do not give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Look at 3 months of bank statements and categorize every single transaction. Most people who do this exercise for the first time are genuinely shocked by what they find, not because they are irresponsible people, but because small recurring costs are psychologically invisible over time. When I did this exercise for the first time back in my 30s, I found out I was paying over $300 for fast food each month. With today's fast food prices, that's equivalent to roughly $900 a month. That made up probably 20% of my entire budget. I quit eating fast food immediately, and that's just one example. Once you have that inventory, the goal is ruthless elimination of everything that does not directly serve your survival or your future. This isn't about being miserable. It's about recognizing that for a period of focused intensity, you are choosing your future self over your current comfort. That isn't deprivation. It's one of the most powerful decisions a person can make. Like my apartment example. So here is where the math starts working in your favor. People in their 50s often have something that younger people do not: large fixed expenses that are close to expiring. If your mortgage has 10 years left, that payment disappears in 10 years. If your children are finishing college, that expense drops off your budget. The financial pressure that made saving impossible in your 30s and 40s can genuinely lighten in your 50s in ways that create real opportunities. The question is whether you redirect that freed up cash toward your future or whether lifestyle inflation quietly absorbs it, which is exactly what happens to most people. The catch-up contribution rules in retirement accounts exist specifically for people in your situation. At 50 and above, you can contribute much more to accounts like a 401k and an IRA than younger workers can. If your employer offers any kind of matching contribution and you are not capturing every single dollar of that match, you are leaving guaranteed returns on the table. No market offers you a guaranteed 50 or 100% immediate return on your money. An employer match does. That is the first place to maximize, period. But here is another brutal truth. Investing alone will not save you if your income does not create real surplus. The math only works if there is money left over after your actual necessary expenses. And that means income has to either go up significantly, expenses have to come down significantly, or both things have to happen at the same time. People who reach financial freedom from a difficult starting position almost always do both simultaneously. They cut hard and they earn more, not one or the other. I know what some of you are thinking. Flint, bruh, I just can't think of anything else to cut out of my expenses. Well, I'll be going over that in detail in the next video, which will include some ideas I think you may not have considered yet. I'm not saying it will be comfortable. I'm saying if you want to become financially free in 5 to 10 years, It's something you have to do.
This brings us to the income side, which people in their 50s dramatically underestimate. You have decades of professional experience, industry knowledge, and relationships that younger people can't replicate. That has market value in consulting, freelancing, coaching, and contract work. The gig economy is not just for young people with apps. Specialized expertise is one of the most valuable things that exists in the professional world, and if you've spent 20 or 30 years developing it, you have something real to offer that goes beyond your current salary.
Increasing your income by even a few $100s a month and directing every dollar of that increase into debt payoff creates a compounding effect that is much more powerful than people realize. The behavioral shift of treating any new income as untouchable for spending purposes is what separates people who make progress from people who stay stuck. And if you've made it this far, you do not want to stay stuck, because you know what the consequences are if you do. Now let's address the emotional reality, because this matters more than the spreadsheets. Making significant financial changes in your 50s is hard in ways that go beyond math. It often requires confronting feelings of regret, shame, and fear simultaneously. The regret about past decisions, the shame about where you are compared to where you thought you would be, the fear that the future will not work out well even if you try. All of that is real, and all of it is normal, and none of it should be used as a reason to delay action for even one more day. I may be farther down the road than some of you, but I definitely had to confront myself and my habits before I could actually start down that path. But I tell you what, I am glad I did. I'm hoping that once you face these challenges, you'll have a breakthrough just like I did. And then, I hope you take action. Not tomorrow, not after breakfast. Now. There's a little Shawshank for you.
Now, here's something that gets consistently overlooked in financial education. The habits you build during this intense period of financial transformation also become the foundation of how you live in retirement. People who learn to spend intentionally, eliminate waste, and distinguish between wants and genuine needs do not magically lose those skills when they stop working. That discipline actually protects their retirement. The people who struggle most in retirement are often those who never developed a healthy relationship with money and spending. They either spend too freely and drain their savings, or they hoard so compulsively that they never actually enjoy what they built. Either extreme is a product of unexamined financial habits.
Financial freedom at any age is not primarily a math problem. The math is the easy part once you genuinely understand it. Financial freedom is a behavioral problem, an identity problem, and sometimes a courage problem. It requires you to decide clearly who you want to be with money and then act in alignment with that decision every single day, even when it's inconvenient, even when your friends are spending freely, even when the culture around you constantly pushes consumption as the default.
You've probably heard the phrase, keeping up with the Joneses, which started from a comic strip back in 1913. They also made a video game called Jones in the Fast Lane back in 1991. Similar pixelated graphics for the board and background as I like to use for this channel. But a perfect example of how easy it is to succumb to lifestyle creep, essentially driven by peer pressure.
You are not too late, but you are also not early. Every month from this point forward has enormous consequences. Yes, because you are running out of time, but more importantly because you are entering the years where focused action creates the most leverage. The compound growth on money saved in your late 50s hits differently than money saved at 30. But you also have an advantage over younger folks. You will be able to contribute more and more often once you learn how to optimize each area of your financial life.
The 10 years between 50 and 60 are not a countdown to disappointment. They are a genuine window of transformation if you use those years correctly. If you stop tolerating the habits that have been quietly stealing from your future. If you stop telling yourself the story that it's too late to matter. It does matter. You matter. And the version of yourself at 65 or 70 who gets to breathe freely because of decisions you make starting today is absolutely worth fighting for. We are survivors. That's how we grew up. We solved in-your-face problems every day and got really good at it. But this financial problem was never really in your face. It's a slow burn that creeps up on you faster than you expect. You don't want to get stuck in your 60s or 70s still working and unable to quit, all the while quietly dreading losing your job or your benefits for any reason, and then being unable to keep up with your expenses. So stop waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is the one you are in right now. So get specific and commit to changing your future. It's going to be hard initially, but you've got to do it. The alternative is to continue working hard for someone else to build their dreams. It's time to start working on yours.
Let's chat about debt for a bit. If you're in your 50s and you're still carrying debt, you're not alone, and you're absolutely not out of time. But the clock is ticking louder now than it ever has before, and that's actually your greatest motivator. Every single dollar you owe is stealing from your future retirement, your peace of mind, and the freedom you have worked decades to deserve. Today we're going to change that. We're going to talk about exactly how to destroy your debt fast, build habits that stick, and undo years of financial patterns that have been quietly working against you. Stay with me because by the end of this video, you're going to have a real plan. Not just inspiration, but actionable steps you can start using today. So let's start with the honest truth. Most people in their 50s carrying debt did not get there because they are irresponsible or lazy. They got there because life happened. Medical bills, divorce, helping adult kids, job loss, keeping up appearances, using credit to bridge gaps during tough months. Sound familiar? The problem isn't your character. The problem is that nobody ever taught you a real system for getting out. Nobody taught me either. And without a system, you default to minimum payments, vague intentions, and hoping something changes. Something is going to change today, and that something is you. The very first thing you need to do before anything else is sit down for a financial truth session. This is a non-negotiable first step. Clear an hour, make a cup of coffee or tea, close the door, no phone, no notifications, no distractions. Open your laptop or grab a notepad and list every single debt you currently have. Every one. Credit cards, car loans, personal loans, medical debt, anything you owe to anyone. For each debt, write down the total balance owed, the interest rate, the minimum monthly payment, and the due date. This exercise alone is going to feel uncomfortable for a lot of people because many of us have been avoiding looking at the full picture. But here's the thing about avoidance. It does not shrink the debt. It just lets it grow in the shadows while your stress grows alongside it. When you drag everything into the light, the fear starts to shrink immediately. That's not just feel-good advice. That's how your brain actually works. The unknown is always scarier than the known. Once you know exactly what you're dealing with, you can fight it directly. I started with around $40,000 in credit card debt, a car payment of $600 a month, insurance for that car at $150 a month, a personal loan of $20,000, and probably 3 times more subscriptions like Netflix or Dropbox or Xbox Live that I remembered signing up for. Once I totaled all of that up into a single monthly amount, it was like a kick in the gut. Now, once you have that complete picture, the next habit you need to build is a weekly or monthly money check-in. Set a recurring alarm on your phone every single week or month, same day, same time, 10 to 15 minutes maximum. During that check-in, you look at your account balances, review any spending from the past week or month, and confirm you're on track with your debt payments. This one habit alone prevents the kind of financial drift that keeps people stuck for years. Most people only look at their finances when something goes wrong, when a payment bounces or a bill arrives that surprises them. The weekly or monthly check-in flips that completely. You're in control now, not reacting. Next, let's talk about your debt payoff strategy, because having a list is not a plan. A plan tells you exactly which debt to attack first and how. The debt snowball works remarkably well for most people because it's built around human psychology, not just mathematics. You take your list of debts and reorder them from the smallest total balance to the largest, ignoring interest rates completely for now. Continue making minimum payments on every single debt except the smallest one. On that smallest debt, you throw every extra dollar you can find every single month until it's completely gone. The moment it's paid off, you take everything you were putting toward that debt and roll it into the next smallest debt. Each time you eliminate a debt, the amount you can throw at the next one grows, just like a snowball rolling downhill, getting bigger and faster. The reason this works so powerfully is the psychological momentum. Paying off a complete debt gives your brain a genuine reward signal. It creates a feeling of progress and winning that keeps you moving forward rather than quitting when the process feels slow. Now, here's where your 50s actually give you an advantage you might not have considered. You likely know yourself pretty well by now. You know your spending triggers. You know the situations where you overspend. You know the habits that drain your account without you realizing it. That self-awareness is enormously powerful if you use it deliberately. So let's talk about the specific habits you need to examine and replace. Bad habit number 1 is treating your credit card like extra income. This is the most common financial trap for people who grew up relying on credit to smooth over rough patches. This was by far my biggest weakness. The replacement habit is simple, but requires genuine commitment. Pay with cash or your debit card only for a defined period of time, say 90 days. This creates friction at the point of purchase and naturally reduces impulse spending. When you physically hand over cash or see your checking account balance drop in real time, you spend less. Research and real-world experience both confirm this consistently. Bad habit number 2 is making only minimum payments and feeling like that counts as managing debt. Minimum payments are designed by lenders to keep you paying for as long as possible while maximizing the interest they collect from you. A $10,000 credit card balance at 18% interest with minimum payments can take over 20 years to pay off and cost you double what you originally borrowed. The replacement habit is committing to paying at least double the minimum on your target debt every single month and finding creative ways to come up with that extra money if your current cash flow does not support it. Which brings us to the critical question of cash flow. You need to know your number. Sit down and calculate your total monthly take-home income, the money that actually hits your bank account after taxes. Then subtract your actual monthly expenses, rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, insurance, phone, subscriptions, and any debt minimum payments. What is left over is your monthly surplus, and this is what determines how fast you can get out of debt. If that number is small or even negative, you have 2 levers to pull: earn more or spend less, ideally both simultaneously. On the spending side, do an honest audit of your subscriptions and recurring charges. Most people in their 50s have accumulated streaming services, gym memberships, app subscriptions, and auto renewals they have completely forgotten about. Go through your last 2 months of bank and credit card statements line by line. Anything you have not used in the last 30 days gets canceled today. This is not deprivation, this is precision. You're redirecting resources toward freedom. Think about your car. I was paying $750 a month for a car and the insurance. When I finally got serious about retirement, I sold that car and bought a reliable used car outright. Insurance dropped to $50 a month. Think about that. That's $700 a month I'm able to invest in assets that generate income. And the only thing I had to give up was just a bit of new age tech. Also, take a look at how often you go out to eat and what kind of foods are you eating. Have you ever noticed how if you eat a large, high-carb meal, somehow you're hungry just a few hours later? But if you eat a surf and turf style meal, you're satiated for much longer. Take a look at the math for yourself. Calculate how much you spend in a week and compare the two. Sure, the steak and seafood may be more expensive, but most people eat much less of it, and they tend to feel better when eating it. Lastly, compare the costs of making those same meals at home instead of at a restaurant. Am I saying don't ever go out and have no enjoyment at all? No, of course not. I'm just suggesting maybe examining it a bit closer, and perhaps limiting restaurant meals for a while until you can get your finances in a better place. On the income side, I want to challenge you to think about what skills and experience you have accumulated over your career that someone else would pay for right now. Consulting, freelance work, coaching, tutoring, handyman services, bookkeeping, writing, whatever your background is. Even $100 or $200 of extra income per month can dramatically shorten your debt payoff timeline. $100 extra per month applied consistently to a $5,000 debt can cut the payoff time nearly in half depending on the interest rate. Think about what you own that you could sell. Furniture, tools, electronics, collectibles, clothing. A focused decluttering push can often generate $500 to $2,000 quickly, and that money dropped on your smallest debt could eliminate it entirely and launch your snowball immediately. Now let's talk about something that trips up a lot of people in their 50s specifically. Lifestyle comparison. You have spent decades building a certain standard of living. You go to certain restaurants, you take certain vacations, you buy certain things, and your social circle often shares those expectations. Letting go of those habits even temporarily can feel like going backward. It's not. It's a strategic retreat so that you can sprint forward. The people who pay off their debt fastest are the ones who get completely honest with themselves about what is a genuine need versus what is a social habit they can pause. You're not giving up these things forever. You're trading them temporarily for something far more valuable, which is financial freedom before retirement. Here's another powerful psychological tool. Make your goal visible every single day. Write down your total debt number and post it somewhere you see it every morning. Some people track this on a simple chart where they color in progress as their balance drops. The visual representation of shrinking debt is genuinely motivating in a way that just checking an app occasionally is not. Your brain responds to visible evidence of progress. Give it that evidence and it will keep pushing you forward. One more critical habit to build in your 50s is the automatic payment system. Every debt minimum payment should be set to autopay. Every single one. This eliminates missed payments, prevents late fees, protects your credit score, and removes the mental load of remembering to pay. Then the only active decision you're making each month is where to direct your extra money above and beyond those automatic payments. Let me address a strategy that deserves attention for people who have access to a personal line of credit or a home equity line. These tools have lower interest rates than most credit cards, and in the right situation can be used strategically to pay off higher interest debt first, reducing the total interest you pay while consolidating into a more manageable single payment. This only works if you stop adding new debt to the cards you pay off, which is the part of discipline you need to master that will determine whether this helps or backfires. If you have access to this kind of tool and the self-discipline to use it correctly, it's worth exploring. Here's what I want you to take away from today. You're not too old to fix this. You're not too far gone. You're not stuck. Who you are is someone who now has a real system to follow. Start with your financial truth session this week. List every debt, every balance, every interest rate. Calculate your monthly surplus. Arrange your debts smallest to largest. Set up autopay for every minimum payment. Cancel every unused subscription today. Cancel the ones that you can live without for a few years. Think long and hard about the cost of your vehicle and insurance. Unleash those Gen X survival and problem-solving skills on your debt. See it for the threat it actually is. Apply every extra dollar to your smallest debt until it's gone. Then roll that payment into the next one. Check in on your finances every single week or month without exception. Make your goal visible. Connect to your reason why, your retirement security, your peace of mind, your family's stability. Whatever it is for you, keep it front and center. People pay off significant debt in surprisingly short time frames when they stop treating it as background noise and start treating it as their primary financial mission. Your 50s are not a sentence. They are a starting line. The decisions you make right now about how aggressively you attack this debt will define the quality of your retirement. And you absolutely have the time and the ability to make those decisions count. Start today. Not Monday, not next month. Today is the first day of the rest of your financial life, and it's going to be a great one. What I'm about to say might sting a little, but you need to hear it. If you're in your 50s and retirement is less than 7 years away, cutting out your daily coffee and skipping vacations is not going to get you there, not even close. Today we're going to talk about the brutal truth of where most people in their 50s actually stand financially, why cost-cutting alone will fail you, and most importantly, exactly what you can do starting today to create real additional income that can actually change your retirement picture. Stay with me because by the end of this video, you're going to have a concrete list of income-generating actions you can take this week. I'm not going to lie, this one was difficult for me. As an introvert, I highly value my downtime. It took me years to realize how a little less downtime and a little more action a decade or two ago could have generated a ton of downtime for me today in the form of financial freedom. So let's start with the hard truth. Many people in their 50s are behind. Not slightly behind, significantly behind. The standard rule of thumb says you should have roughly 10 times your annual salary saved by the time you retire. Run that number right now in your head. For many people watching this, that gap between where you are and where you need to be is not a tweaking problem. It is a strategy problem. And here's the part that stings even more. Even if you become the world's most aggressive expense cutter, trimming every subscription, cooking every meal at home, never traveling or buying anything fun again, there's a ceiling to what that can accomplish. It certainly helps, but you can only cut so much before you hit bone. Income has no ceiling. That's where your real power is. I hear from many of you who feel like the window has closed. It hasn't, but you do need to stop waiting. Stop making excuses because the math gets harder every single year you delay. If you're 52 right now and you want to retire at 59, you have 7 years. 7 years is actually a meaningful amount of time if you use it aggressively. But if you spend 2 of those years just thinking about it, now you've got only 5 years and the equation gets much tighter. So the urgency is real, and I want you to feel that urgency today, not as a source of panic, but as a source of fuel. For me, I'm getting to the point where I'm just burned out at work. I don't want to do it anymore. It pays well, but I've realized just how easy it is for me to be replaced. Companies don't care if you leave, or if they fire you. They'll have you replaced in a matter of weeks as if nothing happened. And I don't want to go and get another job at this age. I want to replace my income. I started this channel, among other things, to help me accomplish that. I want to help other people realize just how risky it is to rely solely on a single job for income. So let's talk about why the cost-cutting mindset alone is dangerous for people in this position. When you're in your 50s, you've likely built a lifestyle. You have a home, possibly kids still in or recently out of the picture, health considerations, social obligations. Asking yourself to radically slash your standard of living for 7 straight years is not only psychologically brutal, it's often not realistic. Life keeps happening. Cars need repairs. Medical bills show up uninvited. Your kid needs help. The point is, expenses will always find you no matter how tight you get. The only reliable antidote is adding more money coming in the door. That's not optimism, that's math. So what can you actually do? Let's get into the real stuff because this is why you're here. I'm going to break this down into categories so you can identify where your own strengths and opportunities line up. The first and fastest category is selling your existing knowledge and skills. If you have spent 20 or 30 years in any industry or profession, you have knowledge that other people would genuinely pay for right now. Consulting is probably the fastest path here. If you worked in finance, human resources, marketing, operations, healthcare, construction, technology, education, or virtually any other field, small businesses and individuals need that expertise, and many cannot afford a full-time hire. You can offer yourself as a part-time consultant or freelance advisor and charge anywhere from $50 to $200 per hour, depending on your specialty. Start by reaching out to your professional network this week. Tell 5 people you trust that you're available for consulting work. That single action costs you nothing and could produce income within 30 days. Coaching is second cousin to consulting. If you've navigated complex life or career challenges, whether that's building a team, managing conflict, raising a family while working, recovering from financial setbacks, There are people earlier in that journey willing to pay for your guidance. Life coaching and career coaching can be done entirely online, require no certification to get started in many cases, and can be built up gradually alongside whatever you're already doing. The second category is service-based work you can start immediately. I want to be real with you here. Some of these are not glamorous, but they work and they can produce cash within days, not months. If you have any skill with numbers, bookkeeping for small businesses is in constant demand. Many small business owners are drowning in disorganized finances and would happily pay someone a few $100s a month to bring order to the chaos. If you've ever used accounting software, even just basic spreadsheets, you can offer this service starting almost immediately. Reach out to 3 local small businesses this week and simply ask if they need help with their books. If you're comfortable with computers and social media, virtual assistant work is another area exploding with opportunity. Online business owners, coaches, consultants, and even real estate agents regularly need someone to handle email, schedule appointments, post to social media, and manage basic administrative tasks. Websites like Upwork and Fiverr can get you in front of potential clients quickly, and this can be done entirely from home around any existing schedule. You can also explore creating a YouTube channel. For those who love being active and outdoors, services like pet care, lawn maintenance, gardening help, and general handyman or handywoman work can bring in consistent money fast. These are not long-term career pivots, these are income bridges. Someone in your neighborhood needs a dog walked 5 days a week. That might be $300 a month for roughly 30 minutes of your daily time. That's not life-changing alone, but it adds up and it starts quickly. The third category is what I call knowledge monetization, and this is where things get really interesting for people in their 50s. Teaching is one of the most underutilized income sources in this age group. Whatever you know how to do, whether that's cooking particular dishes, repairing specific things, deep cleaning houses, navigating a career field, gardening organically, or doing home improvements, there are people out there who want to learn it. You can teach classes locally in your home or at a community space. You can record short instructional videos and post them online. You can create a simple digital guide and sell it. The startup cost is nearly zero and the income potential scales. If you are more comfortable in front of people, consider reaching out to your local library, community center, or continuing education program. These organizations regularly seek instructors for short courses and workshops. You set your rate, you choose your topic, and you show up prepared. Many people in their 50s have done this and found that they genuinely enjoy it while generating several $100s per month in supplemental income. For those with a more entrepreneurial spirit, selling products either online or at local markets represents another income stream worth exploring. If you make anything with your hands, whether that's food, crafts, artwork, woodwork, candles, or clothing, there is a marketplace for it. Online platforms allow you to list items at no upfront cost and reach buyers you'd never find locally. Farmers markets and craft fairs, meanwhile, offer immediate cash sales and human connection that many people in their 50s find energizing rather than draining. Now let's talk about a category that trips people up, and that's the passive income myth. You've probably heard this term constantly online. Make money while you sleep. The honest truth is that almost nothing is truly passive, especially at the start. Writing a book, creating an online course, or building a rental income stream all require real upfront effort. But here's the distinction worth understanding. There is a difference between effort that produces one-time money and effort that produces recurring money. If you invest 2 months developing an online course on something you know deeply, that course can sell over and over again without additional work from you. That's not passive from day one, but it becomes increasingly hands-off over time. If you're 7 years from retirement and you start something like this today, by year 3 or 4, it could be generating meaningful recurring income that actually continues into retirement itself. Speaking of retirement, let me give you one more piece of crucial context. Every additional dollar of income you generate in the next 7 years does double duty. It gives you money to live on today so you can divert more of your regular income into savings. And if you're generating self-employment income, It opens up additional retirement savings vehicles, like a solo 401k, that allow you to shelter significantly more money from taxes than a standard employment situation. This means your additional income efforts don't just add to your bottom line directly, they multiply your ability to save more efficiently. Here's your action plan for this week specifically. On day 1, write down every skill, experience, and knowledge area you have. Be thorough and don't dismiss anything as too obvious. On day 2, identify 3 people in your network you could contact about consulting, bookkeeping, or virtual assistance. On day 3, research one local venue where you could teach a class or workshop. On day 4, look up one online marketplace relevant to something you could offer or sell. On day 5, calculate what an extra $500 or $1,000 per month would do for your retirement savings timeline. Let that number motivate you. Here's what I want to leave you with. You did not come this far in life without developing real skills, real resilience, and real value. The 50s are not a financial death sentence. They are a wake-up call. And the people who answer that call with income-generating action rather than expense-squeezing anxiety are the ones who look back from retirement without regret. The ceiling on what you can cut is right above your head. The ceiling on what you can earn doesn't exist. Now let's go do something about it. Let's talk about investing for a bit. If you've mostly conquered your debt, you're in the right place. If you are in your 50s and just starting to seriously think about investing, the clock is ticking, but this is far from over. In fact, the decisions you make in the next 3 to 5 years could completely transform the financial trajectory of the rest of your life. Personally, I think this is the most exciting phase of this journey. I've been working on my investments for a while now, and I have to say, there's nothing like the feeling of paying your first bill with dividend income instead of your paycheck. The fact that I was able to scrape together enough money to invest, to the point that my portfolio generated enough money to pay one of my bills all by itself, was mind-blowing. I didn't have to pay that bill anymore. It felt like someone else just took over the payments. Now I could use the money I previously paid that bill with to invest even more each month, and continue investing until another bill could be paid, and then another bill. I'm still investing, and I still have quite a few bills that need to be replaced, but the system is definitely working. All it takes for me now is a bit more time. And if I can do it, believe me, you can too. But here's the thing nobody tells you. There's some brutal truths standing between where you are right now and where you need to be. And if you ignore them, no investment strategy in the world is going to save you. So today we are going to rip the Band-Aid off, talk about what actually works, and give you a clear, honest roadmap for building real growth and income from your portfolio starting right now. Let's start with the hardest truth of all, and I want you to really sit with this one. Time is your most valuable asset in investing, and you have spent some of it already. The 30-year-old who starts investing today has a tremendous advantage over you simply because of the math of compounding. That's not meant to discourage you. It's meant to wake you up, because understanding this reality is what separates the investor who takes massive, focused action from the one who keeps procrastinating. You cannot afford to wait another year, another month, or frankly, another week. The good news is that people in their 50s often have something the 30-year-old doesn't have, and that is real income, real assets, and real motivation, because retirement is no longer an abstract concept. It's close enough to see. Use that urgency as fuel. We do need to talk about one thing regarding debt that is non-negotiable. If you're carrying high-interest debt, particularly credit card debt with interest rates sitting at 20, 25, even 29%, and you're also trying to invest in the stock market, you are essentially pouring water into a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. The stock market has historically returned somewhere between 8 and 10% per year on average. High-interest debt is costing you 2 to 3 times that amount every single year. Paying it off is not just smart, it's mathematically the highest guaranteed return you can find anywhere. There is no index fund, no dividend stock, no magic investment strategy that will consistently beat a 20 to 29% guaranteed return. So here is the rule. Before you invest a single dollar in the market beyond any employer match you might have available, destroy your high-interest debt. Attack it aggressively, make it your obsession. This step alone will change everything. Now here's where debt reduction gets even more nuanced for someone in their 50s, because we're not just talking about credit cards. We're talking about car loans, personal loans, and even accelerating mortgage payoff in some situations. Every dollar of debt you eliminate is a dollar that is now working for you instead of against you. Remember to compare the interest rates on each one. For example, it doesn't usually make good financial sense to pay down a mortgage first at 3% when you can invest and make 8 to 10%. It would be smarter to invest to the point where your income can simply pay the mortgage for you, and when the mortgage becomes your very last debt, you can use any extra money you have, even from your job, if you're still working, to pay that down even faster. Every monthly payment you eliminate frees up cash flow that can be redirected into building wealth. Think about what happens when you eliminate a $600 monthly car payment and a $300 credit card minimum payment. Suddenly, you have $900 extra every single month to deploy into dividend-generating investments. The debt payoff is not separate from your investment strategy. It is the foundation of it. All right, so now let's talk about building the actual portfolio. And I want to be clear about what the goal looks like for someone in your position. You are building for two things simultaneously. You want growth to build your overall portfolio value, and you want increasing dividend income to eventually replace or supplement your work income in retirement. These two goals are not mutually exclusive, but you do need to be strategic about how you balance them. For the growth side of your portfolio, the most proven, most reliable tool available to an everyday investor is the broad market index fund. Invest in a broad market index fund like VOO or VTI for access to the S&P 500 or the entire U.S. stock market. These instruments give you instant diversification across hundreds of companies. They carry very low fees, and over long periods of time, they have consistently delivered those historical returns we talked about. Disclaimer: I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes, blah, blah. I'm just a guy on YouTube. You know the deal. Do your research on specific investments that work for you and your situation. You're not trying to pick winners here. You're not trying to predict which company will dominate the next decade. History has shown us repeatedly that even the most dominant companies can fall from grace. The companies ruling the markets in the 1970s were largely replaced by different leaders in the 1990s, who were then replaced again in the 2010s. Nobody saw every twist coming. Index investing removes that guessing game entirely. Now here's a critical psychological truth about investing that you absolutely need to internalize. The market will drop. It will drop significantly at some point during your remaining working years, possibly multiple times. In 2008, the market lost over half its value. In 2020, it dropped sharply in a matter of weeks. Every single time, investors who panicked and sold locked in their losses. My sister did this exact thing in 2020. I tried to talk her out of it, but the panic just wouldn't let her go. After a few months, the market recovered almost completely. Needless to say, she was less than enthusiastic about it. Not only did she sell off the assets that were generating her income, it also triggered a sizable tax event she also had to pay for. Essentially, she locked in her losses by selling, and then paid a massive fine for that decision. Investors who stayed the course and kept buying saw their portfolios recover and eventually reach new highs. The single most destructive behavior in investing is panic selling during downturns. Research shows that missing just the 10 best trading days in the market over a 30-year period can cut your returns by more than half. You cannot afford to be on the sidelines when those big upswing days happen, and they almost always happen when things feel the worst. Automation is your defense mechanism here. Set up automatic monthly contributions and let the system work without your emotions getting in the way. This is dollar cost averaging, and it means you buy more shares when prices are low and fewer when prices are high, averaging out your cost over time. And if you have to, lock your phone and your computer in a drawer or a safe to prevent yourself from panic selling because you can't afford to lose all the progress toward your retirement you've made during these critical years. The market will recover. It always does. Trust the system. Don't get cocky and try timing the market. Dollar cost averaging will get you through it, and you'll come out on the other side happier than a dog with two tails. Now let us get into the dividend side of this strategy because this is where things get genuinely exciting for someone in their 50s. Dividend investing is about building an income stream that pays you simply for holding quality investments. There are dividend-focused exchange-traded funds that hold portfolios of companies with strong histories of consistent dividend payments and even dividend growth over time. These funds provide diversification within the dividend investing space. The compounding effect of reinvesting dividends back into your portfolio during your accumulation years is extraordinarily powerful. Every dividend payment you reinvest buys more shares, which generates more dividends, which buys more shares. And as you approach retirement, you can shift from reinvesting dividends to receiving them as income to cover your living expenses. Just keep in mind, you do not need millions of dollars for dividend investing to work for you. There's a big difference between investing in Johnson & Johnson or McDonald's versus SPYI or SCHD. The first is a type of dividend stock that does take millions of dollars to generate enough money to replace your income. The second are two example ETFs that only take between $500,000 and $800,000 to reach the same goal. Again, make sure you do your own research. Here's another brutal truth you need to accept. The amount you invest every month matters enormously. A small investment generating a 10% return creates modest results. A large investment generating that same return creates life-changing results. This is why eliminating debt and increasing your monthly investing contributions go hand in hand. The more aggressively you cut expenses and eliminate debt payments, the more capital you free up to invest. Someone redirecting $1,000 a month into dividend growth investments at age 52 can build a genuinely substantial income stream before age 65. Someone putting in $100 a month will see meaningful but far more modest results. Be honest with yourself about your numbers. Most of us grew up learning that every time you get your paycheck, the first thing you do is pay your bills, then you can buy what you need and want, and then save the rest. Or perhaps it was to sometimes save a certain percentage first if you could afford to, then buy what you need and want. The mindset shift here is critical. No excuses this time. You can't afford not to understand this key concept if you truly want to retire quickly. Pay yourself first, no exceptions. Buy assets that generate income and then use that income to pay your bills. It will be hard at first, and yes, there will be some sacrifice. But remember, you are only sacrificing for a short few years now to enjoy many more stress-free years in the future. You also need to take full advantage of tax-advantaged accounts immediately. If your employer offers a 401k with any level of matching contribution, that match is free money, and you should capture every dollar of it without exception. Beyond that, look at maxing out an IRA. If you're over 50, the IRS actually allows you to make additional catch-up contributions to these accounts each year, meaning you can shelter more money from taxes than younger investors can. These tax advantages compound significantly over a 10 to 15-year investing horizon. Every dollar you keep away from taxes is a dollar that stays in your portfolio and keeps working for you. Now I want to address something that trips up many beginning investors in their 50s specifically, and that is the temptation to take on too much risk chasing faster returns because they feel behind. This is a dangerous trap. Yes, you need growth. Yes, you need to be invested in dividend ETFs. But pouring your money into speculative individual stocks, cryptocurrency schemes, or complex financial products you do not fully understand is not catching up. It's gambling. And at this stage of life, a major loss is exponentially harder to recover from than it would have been at 30. Stick to diversified index funds and proven dividend holdings for your core portfolio. Let consistency and time do the work. Similarly, don't overcorrect by being too conservative. Moving everything into bonds or cash because you are scared of market volatility will virtually guarantee that your portfolio does not grow fast enough to serve you through what could be a 30-year retirement. With life expectancy continuing to extend, a 55-year-old today may well live into their late 80s or even their 90s. Your money needs to keep working for a very long time. So here's your action plan broken down into clear steps. Step 1. Immediately list every debt you still carry and rank them by interest rate, attacking the lowest balance first, or the highest interest rate first if you prefer, while making minimums on everything else. Step 2. Build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund so you never have to liquidate income-generating investments during a crisis. Step 3. Capture your full employer 401k match if one is available to you. Step 4. Open a Roth IRA or traditional IRA and take advantage of those catch-up contribution limits available to people over 50. Step 5. Set up automatic monthly contributions into low-cost, broad market index funds and dividend-focused funds. Step 6. Reinvest all dividends until you actually need that income. Step 7. Commit to never panic selling during market downturns. The investors who win are not the ones with the best stock picks or the most sophisticated strategies. They are the ones who eliminate financial drag, invest consistently, stay disciplined during fear, and give their money enough time to compound. Your 50s are not too late. They are actually your most powerful decade for focused financial transformation if you act with urgency and clarity starting today. Let's discuss real estate. You've worked your whole life, you've paid down your debt, and now you are sitting there in your 50s wondering if it's too late to build serious wealth through real estate. Here's the truth nobody talks about enough. Your 50s might actually be the single best decade to accelerate your investment journey. You have something that younger investors desperately wish they had, and that's financial clarity, life experience, and in many cases, freed up cash flow from finally getting rid of those monthly debt obligations. Today we're going to walk through exactly how you can take that momentum and channel it into real estate income that starts working for you right now. I actually got my real estate license twice during my life, but had the worst possible timing with it. The first time was in order to work as a mortgage lender. Guess what happened a few months after I got hired on with a mortgage firm? You guessed it, the 2008 housing crisis. The second time was during the pandemic. Awesome. Okay, let's change the channel back. So this video is not about real estate theory. It's about the specific steps you can take this week, this month, and over the next few years to build a real estate income stream that could genuinely change what your retirement looks like. Whether that means buying physical properties or using real estate investment trusts, you have real options available to you right now. So let's get into it. First, let's talk about where you actually are. If you've spent the last several years aggressively paying down debt, whether that was credit cards, auto loans, or a personal loan, you have just done something incredibly powerful. You have created breathing room in your monthly budget. That freed up cash flow is your launching pad. Most people in their 30s and 40s who want to invest in real estate are fighting against monthly obligations that eat their potential capital alive. If you're here watching this video, you don't have that problem anymore. If you still have credit card debt, please watch my video on how to pay that down as fast as possible. The link is in the description below. The question isn't whether you have the resources to start. The question is, which vehicle is going to give you the best return on the time and money you have available? So let's look at your two primary paths. Physical real estate is the first one. Real estate investment trusts, or REITs, is the second. Both are legitimate. Both have produced real wealth for real people. And both can work simultaneously, which we will get to later. Starting with physical rental properties, one of the most important things to understand when evaluating any rental property is whether the numbers actually make sense before you spend a single day visiting houses or talking to agents. There are a couple of quick screening tools that experienced investors use to filter deals fast. The first is something called the 1% test. Here's how it works. You take the monthly rent a property would generate and divide it by the purchase price. If that number comes out to 1% or higher, the property has a reasonable chance of producing positive cash flow. If it falls well below that threshold, you are likely looking at a deal that will cost you money every month rather than generate it. This isn't a perfect rule, but it is a quick filter that saves you from wasting time on properties that will probably never work as rentals. The second tool is the 50% guideline. On average, about half a rental property's gross rent goes toward operating expenses. That means property taxes, insurance, maintenance, vacancy, and property management fees if you use that. Notice that doesn't include your mortgage payment, so if a property rents for $2,000 a month, you should expect roughly $1,000 to cover expenses, leaving you $1,000 from which to pay your mortgage. If your mortgage payment is less than that remaining amount, you have positive cash flow. If it's more, you do not. Running this quick mental math on any property you are considering will tell you almost immediately whether it is worth a closer look. A question I hear constantly from people starting in their 50s is this: do I really have enough time to build a real estate portfolio? And my answer is yes, but your strategy needs to fit your situation. You're not necessarily going to want a house hack, which is a strategy where you buy a small multi-unit property, live in one unit, and rent out the others. That approach is powerful for younger investors who are more flexible about moving every year, but it might not be realistic or desirable for where you are in life. What does make a lot of sense for someone in your position is a more straightforward acquisition strategy, using the income and savings you have built up. Here's what a realistic, accelerated plan looks like. If you've been eliminating debt and are now freeing up, let's say, $1,200 to $1,500 a month that was previously going toward debt payments, that's $14,000 to $18,000 a year in new savings capacity. Over just 2 to 3 years of disciplined saving combined with whatever nest egg you may already have, you could be looking at enough for a down payment on a solid, income-producing rental property in a mid-priced market. Markets in the Midwest and parts of the South still have single-family homes and small multifamily properties available at prices where the numbers can work. Your goal should be to purchase one property every 1 to 2 years and hold it for the long term. You do not need to build a 10 or 20 property empire. 3 well-chosen cash-flowing rentals can generate meaningful supplemental retirement income. Now here's a critical step that too many beginning investors skip. Before you buy anything, get very clear on your numbers. What monthly cash flow do you need to meaningfully supplement your retirement income? Work backward from that goal. If you want $2,000 a month in passive rental income, and each property nets $400 to $500 after all expenses and mortgage, you are looking at needing 4 to 5 properties. If you want $1,000 a month, 2 solid rentals might get you there. Knowing your target gives you a roadmap. Let's talk about the second path, and this one is fantastic for people in our position who want real estate exposure without the management headaches. Real estate investment trusts are companies that own portfolios of income-producing real estate, ranging from apartment buildings and office parks to hospitals and self-storage facilities. You buy shares of a REIT the same way you would buy a share of stock, through any brokerage account. And here is what makes REITs incredibly compelling for someone looking to generate income quickly. By law, REITs are required to distribute at least 90% of their taxable income to shareholders as dividends. That means you are getting paid regularly, typically every quarter, just for holding shares. The average equity REIT, meaning one that owns actual properties rather than mortgages, pays a dividend yield of around 5%. Compare that to the average yield of dividend stocks like Johnson & Johnson or McDonald's, around 2%, and you can see why income-focused investors pay close attention to REITs. Some specialized REITs pay even higher yields, though higher yield often comes with higher sector-specific risk, so understanding what you own matters. Now here's a tax consideration that's especially relevant if you're in your 50s and building toward retirement. REIT dividends are typically taxed as ordinary income rather than the lower qualified dividend rate. That could mean a tax bite of anywhere from 24 to 37%, depending on your bracket. However, if you hold your REIT investments inside a tax-advantaged account, like a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, You can either defer or completely eliminate that tax burden. If you've been contributing to retirement accounts over the years and have room to maximize contributions or even open a self-directed IRA, housing your REIT investments there is a smart move that protects more of your income. For people who don't want to research individual REITs, there is a simpler option. REIT exchange-traded funds pool together dozens or even hundreds of different real estate companies into one investment. This gives you built-in diversification and eliminates the risk of putting too much weight on one sector. If one type of real estate struggles, say retail or hospitality, during an economic downturn, other sectors within the fund can offset those losses. This kind of stability is exactly what you want when you are building income for retirement, rather than swinging for speculative gains. So what does an actionable starting plan actually look like for someone in their 50s who has cleaned up their debt and is ready to build? Here are your steps. Step 1. Sit down this week and calculate exactly how much monthly cash flow you have freed up from your debt payoff. That number is the foundation of your investment capacity. Step 2. Open or fund a tax-advantaged account if you have not already. Maximize your contributions and direct a portion specifically toward REITETFS to start generating dividend income now. This gets you into real estate immediately without waiting to save a full down payment. Step 3. Spend the next 6 months learning your target real estate market. Pick one geographic area, ideally somewhere within a few hours of where you live, or a strong rental market you can research thoroughly, and start tracking property values, rental rates, and inventory. Step 4. Apply the 1% test and 50% guideline to every property you look at. Do not fall in love with a property before the numbers confirm it makes sense. Step 5. Use the income generated from your REIT dividends to supplement your down payment savings. You are essentially using one real estate investment to fund your path toward physical real estate ownership. Remember, I'm just a guy on YouTube. Make sure you do your own research and make decisions that make sense for your own life. I'm simply trying to help open your mind to the possibilities that are out there. Here's the bottom line. Starting in your 50s is not a disadvantage. The debt you eliminated gave you firepower. The life experience you carry helps you make better decisions. REITs give you immediate income while you build toward physical property ownership. And physical rentals, even one or two well-chosen ones, can provide the kind of consistent monthly income that makes retirement feel secure rather than stressful. The people who regret starting late are the ones who waited even longer because they assumed it was too late. Do not be that person. Your next chapter starts right now. So let's discuss Social Security at this point. Picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, staring at two piles of paper. One pile is your debt statements. The other pile is your brokerage account statements. And somewhere between those two piles is the retirement you actually want. The question isn't whether you can get there. The question is whether you have a specific, actionable roadmap to make it happen before Social Security even enters the picture. Today, we are building that roadmap together, step by step. If you're done or nearly done paying down debt and starting to get your investment engine running on full speed, you're ahead of most people. But ahead is not the same as optimized. So let's recap some basics and get that fixed up right now. Step 1 is understanding where you actually stand today. Before you make a single strategic decision, you need a complete financial snapshot. That means listing every debt you carry, the balance, the interest rate, the minimum payment, and the payoff timeline. It also means pulling up every investment account you own, your brokerage accounts, your IRA, your Roth IRA, your 401k, and looking at the current value, the expected growth rate, and what you are contributing monthly. Write all of this down. This is your financial baseline, and you can't navigate to a destination if you don't know your starting point. Step 2 is applying the debt waterfall strategy. Not all debt is created equal when it comes to your path to early retirement. High-interest consumer debt, anything above 7 or 8%, is an emergency. Every dollar sitting in that debt is costing you more than your investments are likely generating on a risk-adjusted basis. Tackle those aggressively while keeping minimum payments on everything else. Once the high-interest debt is gone, reassess. Lower interest debt, like a mortgage at 3 or 4%, may actually make more mathematical sense to carry, while redirecting extra cash into investments that historically outperform that interest rate over long periods. The key insight here is that eliminating debt is a guaranteed return equal to the interest rate. Investing is a probable return. Your job is to balance these two forces intelligently, based on the actual numbers in your situation. Step 3 is building your dividend income engine. If early retirement is your goal, you need income that flows without you working, and dividends are one of the most powerful tools available. Start by calculating your monthly living expenses in retirement. Be honest and be thorough. Include healthcare, housing, food, travel, entertainment, and a buffer for surprises. Now, work backwards. If your expenses are $4,000 per month, you need $48,000 per year in passive income. A portfolio yielding 3% annually would require approximately $1.6 million. A portfolio yielding 8% would require about $600,000. That second one is not as scary if you start now and stay consistent. Reinvest every dividend you receive right now. Most brokerages have a setting to turn on reinvestment automatically. It is the compounding engine that turns small positions into substantial income streams over time. Step 4 is maximizing your tax-advantaged accounts before anything else. This is the single most overlooked action item among people who are trying to retire early. Every dollar you put into a traditional 401k or traditional IRA reduces your taxable income today. Every dollar you put into a Roth IRA or Roth 401k grows completely tax-free and can be withdrawn tax-free in retirement. For 2026, the contribution limit for a 401k is $23,500 if you are under 50. If you're 50 or older, you can contribute an additional $7,500 as a catch-up contribution. For IRAs, the limit is $7,000 with an additional $1,000 in catch-up if you are 50 or older. If your employer offers any matching on your 401k contributions, that match is literally free money, and not capturing it in full is leaving retirement savings on the table. Prioritize the full match first, then attack high-interest debt, then max out a Roth IRA, then return to maxing the 401k. Step 5 is structuring your taxable brokerage account for early retirement flexibility. Here's something most people don't realize. If you want to retire before you can access your retirement accounts without penalty, which is generally age 59 and a half, your taxable brokerage account becomes your bridge. This is where dividend income and strategic growth investments live that you can access at any age. Focus on building this account with a combination of dividend-paying stocks and index funds that provide both income and growth. The goal is to have enough income flowing from this account to cover your living expenses from the day you retire until you're ready to begin drawing from retirement accounts and eventually Social Security. Step 6 is doing the Social Security math long before you file. Here is where most people make their most expensive mistake. They treat Social Security as something to figure out when they get there. Instead, treat it as a strategic lever you can pull at the right moment based on your overall financial picture. You become eligible to claim Social Security retirement benefits at age 62, but claiming at 62 comes with a permanent reduction of up to 30% if your full retirement age is 67. Every year you delay claiming, that reduction shrinks. Once you hit full retirement age, you receive your full calculated benefit. And if you delay past full retirement age, your benefit grows by 8% per year up until age 70. That is a guaranteed 8% annual return, which is exceptionally powerful in a low-risk context. The critical insight here is this. If you've built strong dividend income and a robust investment portfolio, you may be able to retire early and simply not claim Social Security right away. Let your portfolio support your lifestyle in your early retirement years, while your Social Security benefit continues growing. This approach can dramatically increase your lifetime Social Security income while also preserving your investment portfolio better, because you're drawing it down more slowly. Step 7 is calculating your personal break-even age. Pull up a Social Security benefits estimator. The Social Security Administration website has one. Enter your earnings history and look at three numbers: your benefit at 62, your benefit at your full retirement age, and your benefit at 70. Then do this simple exercise. Multiply the annual difference between filing at 62 versus waiting by the number of years until your break-even point. For most people, that break-even falls somewhere between 77 and 79 years old. If your family history and current health suggest you are likely to live into your mid-80s or beyond, delaying Social Security is almost always the winning financial strategy. If your health picture is more uncertain, the calculus shifts. This is a personal calculation, and it deserves serious attention. Step 8 is understanding what does and does not count against the Social Security earnings limit before full retirement age. This matters deeply if you plan to retire early but want to work part-time. For 2026, if you claim Social Security before your full retirement age and continue earning income from work, the Social Security Administration will withhold $1 in benefits for every $2 you earn above $24,480. However, and this is enormous, investment income does not count toward this limit. Dividends, interest income, IRA distributions, capital gains, pension income, and annuity payments are all excluded from the earnings test. This means that if your early retirement income comes from your investment portfolio rather than a paycheck, you can claim Social Security early without triggering any earnings penalties. This is a major strategic advantage for people who have built the dividend income engine we discussed in Step 3. Step 9 is building a 12-month pre-retirement financial checklist. At least 1 year before you stop working, do all of the following. Eliminate any remaining high-interest debt completely. Confirm your projected monthly dividend and investment income covers your baseline expenses. Understand your healthcare plan, because Medicare does not start until 65, and private insurance before then can be a significant expense. Get a Social Security statement and verify your earnings history is accurate, because errors do happen. Model out at least 3 different Social Security claiming scenarios using actual numbers. Create a written withdrawal strategy for which accounts you will draw from and in what order to minimize taxes. Establish a cash reserve of at least 12 months of living expenses, so you are not forced to sell investments during a market downturn in your early retirement years. Step 10 is treating risk as a real threat and planning for it. One of the biggest dangers to early retirement is experiencing a significant market downturn in the first few years after you stop working. If you are drawing from your portfolio during a down market, you sell more shares at lower prices to meet your expenses, which permanently reduces your portfolio's ability to recover. The defense against this is that cash reserve we mentioned, combined with a dividend-focused investment strategy, because dividend income tends to remain more stable even during market volatility. Your dividends can cover living expenses without forcing asset sales. Here is the bottom line. The path to early retirement is not mysterious, it is methodical. Pay down high-interest debt aggressively. Build a dividend income portfolio inside both tax-advantaged and taxable accounts. Maximize employer matches and Roth contributions. Model your Social Security claiming strategy years in advance so you can time it to maximize lifetime income. Structure your investment income specifically to avoid the Social Security earnings test if you want to claim early. And build the financial bridge that carries you comfortably from your last day of work to the day your full financial picture clicks into place. The people who retire early are not the ones who got lucky. They are the ones who built the plan early enough to let it work. Start today. Your future self is waiting. If you're in your 50s and feel like taxes are eating away at everything you have worked so hard to build, you're not alone. It sucks. This is actually one of the most critical decades of your financial life, and the decisions you make right now about how you earn, save, spend, and invest will determine how much of your money actually stays in your pocket when you retire. Today, I'm going to walk you through specific actionable steps to legally reduce your income tax burden in your 50s, and I'm covering two different situations. First, people who are still working through tight budgets and need every dollar to count. This is me. Second, people who have paid off debt and have extra money to work with. This is not me, but I'm almost there. Stick around though, because by the end of this module, you will have a clear roadmap for both situations. Let's start with why your 50s are actually the best time to get serious about this. The IRS actually gives people over 50 additional benefits that younger workers do not get. These are catch-up contributions, and they are specifically designed for this stage of life. So if you have not been maximizing your retirement accounts in your 30s and 40s, don't panic. Your 50s are your power decade to catch up and reduce your taxes at the same time. Go get that star, Mario. Before we get into the specific strategies, I need you to understand one fundamental principle. Every dollar you legally move into a tax-advantaged account is a dollar the IRS cannot touch this year. That is the core of every single strategy we are about to discuss. You are not cheating the system. You are using the system exactly the way lawmakers designed it to work. Let's start with the basics for people in their 50s who are on a tighter budget. Maybe you're paying off a car loan, still have a mortgage, or just trying to keep up with regular expenses. These first steps cost you nothing to implement and can reduce what you owe immediately. Step 1 is to take advantage of your employer's retirement plan right now. If your job offers a 401k or a 403b, and you are not contributing at least enough to get the full employer match, you are leaving free money on the table and paying more taxes than you need to. Every dollar you put into a traditional 401k or 403b reduces your taxable income for this year dollar for dollar. In 2025 and beyond, folks over 50 can contribute significantly more than younger workers, thanks to those catch-up provisions we mentioned. This is arguably the single most powerful tool available to you at this stage, and it doesn't require you to have extra money. You're simply redirecting money you were already going to earn into an account that protects it from taxes. Step 2 is to look into a health savings account if you have a high-deductible health plan through your employer. An HSA is one of the only triple tax-advantaged accounts that exists in the entire United States tax code. The money you contribute reduces your taxable income today. It grows tax-free inside the account. And when you spend it on qualified medical expenses, you pay zero taxes on withdrawal. In your 50s, your healthcare costs are likely increasing, so using an HSA to pay for those expenses with pre-tax dollars is a smart move for almost everyone who qualifies. Step 3 is to check whether you qualify for a traditional IRA deduction. If you're not covered by a workplace retirement plan, or if your income falls under certain thresholds, you may be able to deduct traditional IRA contributions from your taxable income. Again, people over 50 get extra catch-up contribution limits here as well. This is a retirement account you open entirely on your own, outside of work, so it's available even if your employer does not offer great benefits. Step 4 involves something most people completely overlook, which is their commuter benefits. If your employer offers a pre-tax commuter benefit program, use it. You can set aside money before taxes to pay for transit passes, parking, or ride-sharing. It is a small benefit, but it reduces your taxable income with zero additional cost to you and takes about 5 minutes to set up. Step 5 is to double-check your W-4 withholding settings with your employer. Many people in their 50s are accidentally over-withholding or under-withholding, and under-withholding can actually result in an IRS penalty on top of your tax bill. Visit your payroll department or your online payroll portal and review what you have set up. Correcting this ensures you are not giving the government an interest-free loan all year, and it prevents surprise penalties. Now let's shift into the strategies for people in their 50s who have more financial flexibility. Maybe you've paid off your home, eliminated credit card debt, or received an inheritance or promotion. You have extra cash flow and you're wondering how to deploy it as tax efficiently as possible. These strategies are where things get really interesting. Strategy 1 is to maximize every single retirement account available to you simultaneously. Now that you have extra cash flow, the goal is to fill up your 401k or 403b to the absolute maximum allowed limit, including catch-up contributions. After that, fund a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, depending on your income level. These accounts aren't just retirement savings vehicles, they are tax reduction tools. Every dollar you put into a pre-tax account shrinks the income the government can tax you on right now. Strategy 2 is to consider a Roth conversion strategy. This one requires some careful planning, but it is extremely powerful in your 50s, especially if you expect to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement, or if you want to reduce future required minimum distributions. A Roth conversion means you take money from a traditional IRA or 401k, pay the taxes on it now, and move it into a Roth account where it will never be taxed again. The best time to do a Roth conversion is during a year when your income is temporarily lower than usual. Working with a CPA to identify your optimal conversion amount each year can save you enormous amounts in taxes over the long run. Strategy 3 involves your investment accounts outside of retirement. If you hold stocks, funds, or other investments in a regular brokerage account, pay attention to how long you hold them before selling. Investments held for more than 1 year qualify for long-term capital gains tax rates, which are significantly lower than ordinary income tax rates. In some income ranges, the long-term capital gains rate is actually 0% at the federal level. So simply being patient with your investments can result in dramatically lower taxes when you sell. Strategy 4 is tax loss harvesting. If any of your investments have declined in value, selling them to realize those losses can offset gains you have made elsewhere in your portfolio. Investment losses are tax deductions. They reduce your taxable income. You can then reinvest the proceeds into a similar but not identical investment to maintain your portfolio positioning. This strategy is especially useful during years when markets are volatile. Strategy 5 is to explore a 529 education savings plan if you have children, grandchildren, or even yourself considering further education. While you will not get a federal tax deduction for contributions, many states offer a state income tax deduction, and the money grows completely tax-free as long as it is used for qualified educational expenses. In your 50s with grandchildren perhaps on the horizon, this can be a meaningful tax planning tool. Strategy 6 is the one most people in this category miss entirely, and it relates to rental income. If you own a second property or are considering renting out a room or your home temporarily, be aware of the minimal rental use rule. If you rent your home for 14 days or fewer in a calendar year, that income is completely tax-free. You do not report it. You do not pay federal taxes on it. This is a legitimate provision in the tax code that is widely underutilized. This isn't financial advice. You know the drill. Now let's talk about what happens as you approach the end of your 50s and start looking toward retirement withdrawals. This is where strategy becomes incredibly important because the order in which you draw from your accounts determines how much tax you pay. Hopefully, you'll have dividend income by this point, so you won't have to withdraw anything at first, but just in case you do, the general principle is this. In retirement, you want to draw from taxable brokerage accounts first, then traditional retirement accounts, and preserve your Roth accounts for as long as possible, because Roth money grows and comes out tax-free indefinitely. However, there's an important exception to consider. If you are approaching 73, you will eventually face required minimum distributions from traditional retirement accounts. These forced withdrawals can push you into a higher tax bracket unexpectedly. The way to mitigate this in your 50s is to start gradually drawing down or converting your traditional accounts now, before those required distributions kick in, and before Social Security adds more taxable income to your picture. Speaking of Social Security, timing matters. Depending on your other sources of income, some portion of your Social Security benefit may become taxable. Working with a financial planner or CPA to model out different withdrawal scenarios before you claim can save you thousands of dollars over the course of retirement. Let me give you a quick summary of the action steps because I want this to be as practical as possible. If you are on a tighter budget right now, start by contributing enough to your workplace retirement plan to get the full employer match. Open or fund an HSA if you qualify. Verify your IRA deductibility and open one if you do not have one. Set up commuter benefits through your employer if possible. Review and correct your W-4 withholding. These 5 steps can reduce your tax bill immediately. If you have extra income and financial flexibility, maximize all retirement account contributions, including catch-up amounts. Work with a CPA to evaluate Roth conversion opportunities year by year. Hold investments for over a year to access long-term capital gains rates. Harvest investment losses strategically to offset gains. Explore state-level 529 deductions and begin modeling your retirement withdrawal sequence now to minimize future required minimum distributions. One final thought before you go. None of these strategies require a high income or a financial genius. They only require attention, intentionality, and ideally a good CPA or financial advisor who can help you see around corners you did not know existed. The tax code was written with these provisions in your favor. Your job is simply to use them. Your 50s are not too late. In many ways, they are exactly the right time. So take one of these steps this week, just one, and build from there. You work your whole life building something worth keeping, and then one mistake, one overlooked document, one outdated beneficiary form can unravel everything you spent decades creating. That's not a hypothetical. That happens every single day to retirees and near retirees who thought they had things figured out. Today we're going to walk through exactly what you should do and exactly what you should never do when it comes to estate planning for your retirement years. And if you stick around to the end, you'll understand why the single best investment you can make right now has nothing to do with the stock market. Let me start by reframing something. Most people hear the words estate planning and immediately picture death paperwork. If that's what it was, I'd mentally run the other way as fast as possible. But that is the wrong picture entirely. Estate planning is just as much about protecting you while you are alive as it is about what happens after you are gone. Think about that for a second. What happens if you have a medical emergency and you can't speak for yourself? What happens if you become incapacitated and someone needs to manage your finances? These are not distant hypotheticals. These are situations that happen to real people all the time, and without the right documents in place, the consequences can be devastating. So let's talk about the actual steps you need to take, starting with the foundation. Step 1 is understanding what a complete estate plan actually looks like. A lot of people think they just need a will or maybe a trust and they're done. That isn't the full picture. A truly complete estate plan for retirement covers at least 3 phases of your life. The first phase is right now, while you are alive and healthy. The second phase is if something happens and you become incapacitated. God forbid. And the third phase is what happens after you pass. Most people only plan for that third phase, and that's where they leave enormous gaps. Step 2 is getting a durable power of attorney for finances. This is one of the most important documents you can have during your lifetime. If something happens to you and you can't manage your own affairs, someone needs the legal authority to pay your bills, manage your accounts, handle your investments. Without this document, your family could end up in a lengthy and expensive court process just to get that authority. Get this document done and make sure the person you designate is someone you genuinely trust with your financial life. Step 3 is getting a power of attorney for healthcare and making sure you also have your HIPAA authorization in order. These two things often get lumped together, but they serve slightly different purposes. The healthcare power of attorney designates someone to make medical decisions on your behalf. The HIPAA release allows your medical providers to actually talk to your designated person. Without that release, healthcare providers legally can't share information with your family, even in an emergency. That alone could put your advocate in an impossible situation. Step 4 is creating a living will, and please don't confuse this with a living trust. They are completely different documents that serve completely different purposes. A living will, also sometimes called an advance healthcare directive, is where you spell out your wishes regarding end-of-life medical care. Do you want extraordinary measures taken if you're in a terminal condition? Do you want every possible intervention or not? These are profoundly personal decisions, and the time to make them is now, while you are healthy and clear-headed, not during a crisis when family members are emotional and overwhelmed. Getting this document right takes the burden off your loved ones and ensures your actual wishes are followed. Step 5 is establishing a living trust, and this is where things get really important for protecting your assets during retirement. Here is the fundamental problem with dying with only a will, or with no will at all. Your estate goes through probate. Probate is a public court process. It can take months or even years. It can consume a significant portion of your estate in legal fees and court costs. It's stressful, it's contentious, and it exposes your private financial life to public record. People have actually been targeted specifically because probate records revealed the size of their estates. A living trust sidesteps all of that. When your assets are held inside a properly funded living trust, your successor trustee can transfer those assets to your beneficiaries without any court involvement at all. It stays private. It is faster. It is almost always far less expensive than probate, and it gives you an enormous amount of control over how and when your beneficiaries receive what you leave behind. Step 6 is funding your trust, and this is where a lot of people stumble. Creating the trust document is only half the job. The trust only controls assets that are actually titled in the name of the trust. Your house needs to be retitled, your bank accounts need to be updated, your brokerage accounts need to reflect the trust. If you spend money on a living trust and then never fund it properly, you essentially have an empty suitcase. Your assets could still end up in probate anyway. Now let's shift into the mistakes, because knowing what not to do is just as important as knowing what to do. Mistake number 1 is relying on a will as your primary estate planning tool. A will does not avoid probate. A will actually guarantees probate. Your will becomes a public document. Anyone can access it. Every potential beneficiary, every creditor, and sometimes complete strangers end up involved in the process. Family conflicts that were manageable suddenly become legal battles. There are documented cases of families fighting in court over items worth almost nothing in dollar terms, simply because grief and emotion turned a simple distribution into a war. A will has its place in a complete plan, but it should not be carrying the whole load. Mistake number 2 is using generic online documents. The appeal is obvious. You can get something done cheaply and quickly, but template documents frequently lack the specific provisions that protect your actual situation. They often have no provisions for a spouse who might remarry after your death. They may lack special needs trust language that could unintentionally disqualify a disabled beneficiary from receiving government assistance. They typically have no legacy provisions that allow you to direct how your assets are used across generations, and they almost always lack the ancillary documents like HIPAA releases and advance directives that a genuinely complete plan requires. This is one area where cutting corners can cost your family enormously. Mistake number 3 is putting the wrong assets into your trust. Not everything should be retitled into a living trust. Retirement accounts like IRAs and 401ks have their own beneficiary designation system. Putting those accounts directly into a trust title can trigger serious tax consequences. Instead, you'll generally want to name individuals as primary beneficiaries of those accounts, potentially naming the trust as a contingent beneficiary under specific circumstances. Life insurance and annuities also operate under their own beneficiary framework. Understanding which assets belong in your trust and which ones are better handled through direct beneficiary designations is something that genuinely requires professional guidance. Mistake number 4 is failing to coordinate your beneficiary designations with your overall plan. This is a quiet killer. Your estate plan documents say one thing, but your old life insurance policy names an ex-spouse. Your IRA still lists a parent who passed away years ago. Your brokerage account was set up before your second marriage. Beneficiary designations override your will and your trust, So if they are outdated or inconsistent with your actual intentions, the consequences can be irreversible. Review every beneficiary designation you have and make sure everything aligns. Mistake number 5 is treating a living trust as an asset protection tool during your lifetime. People sometimes believe that putting assets in a revocable living trust shields them from creditors or lawsuits while they are alive. It does not. A revocable trust offers no creditor protection for you personally during your lifetime because you still have full control over those assets. Asset protection for yourself requires different strategies and different structures. Your estate planning attorney can advise you on what actual asset protection looks like given your specific situation. Mistake number 6 is choosing the wrong trustee without thinking through the consequences. Naming your children as trustees without any oversight structure can create serious problems. Statistically, windfalls cause financial harm to a significant number of people who are not prepared to manage sudden wealth. Having a professional or institutional trustee involved, either as the primary trustee or as a co-trustee with oversight authority, can protect your beneficiaries from making catastrophic financial decisions with their inheritance. Mistake number 7 is waiting. This is the biggest mistake of all. People tell themselves they'll get to it when things settle down, when they have more money, when they are older. But incapacity and death don't send advance notice. Every month you delay is a month your family is unprotected. The documents you never got around to doing are exactly the ones your family will desperately wish you had completed. Now here's the honest truth about all of this. You could spend time piecing together bits of information online and attempting to put something together yourself, but the complexity of properly coordinating a living trust with healthcare directives, beneficiary designations, power of attorney documents, pour-over will provisions, and your specific asset profile is genuinely a professional-level task. An experienced estate planning attorney understands provisions you have likely never heard of. They know how to structure trusts so your surviving spouse is protected, while also ensuring your children from a prior relationship are not accidentally disinherited. They know how to craft legacy language that reflects your actual values and goals. They know how to protect a beneficiary with special needs without inadvertently disqualifying them from essential support programs. The cost of getting proper estate planning done is quite modest compared to the cost of getting it wrong. What you spend working with a professional is almost always a small fraction of what probate alone would cost your estate, to say nothing of the legal fees from family disputes or the tax consequences of improperly handled retirement accounts. So here's your action plan going forward. Schedule a consultation with a qualified estate planning attorney, not an online document service, an actual licensed professional who specializes in estate planning. Before that meeting, make a list of every asset you own, every account you have, every existing beneficiary designation, and every person who is important to your plan. Come to that meeting with your questions and with an open mind. Then take action on what they recommend. Review your plan every few years or whenever your family situation, your financial situation, or the tax laws change significantly. Building wealth over a lifetime is hard. Protecting it doesn't have to be. The steps are clear. The tools exist. All that's left is making the decision to take this seriously, and making that decision right now. I hope you got a ton of value from this video, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing, and drop your own thoughts and ideas in the comments. My name is Flint, and I will see you in the next video.